I welcome everybody today, the ETAuto Roundtable. Thank you so much, panelists, for joining us. I would like to first introduce all the panelists. We have Mr. Amit Jain, the CEO and Executive Director with Automotive. He takes care of the technology part, telematics, and specializes in IT and cloud. We have Mr. Kaushik Madhavan, Vice President Mobility, Frost and Sullivan. He specializes in network, supply, consumer connect, and mobility solutions. Mr. Rakesh Pandey is from Siemens. He's the lead at Siemens for automotive vertical. He specializes in IT, supply chain management, and mobility solutions. Mr. Manish Patel from MG, as he's wearing the logo very much on his shoulder. He takes care of, he's the CIO at MG Motors, one of the most outstanding company right now to look at in terms of product and all. So he's an industry veteran with decades of experience in IT, business processes, manufacturing, and digital solutions. So I also have Vikas. Vikas is with Hero Motocorp. He's the lead at IT and information solution. Hero Motocorp is the world's largest two-wheeler company, and right now they must be having major challenges in connecting all the dots, especially with regard to production. That's a major challenge at multiple locations, as well as the consumer interface that they are looking at. I just want to start with Mr. Jain. Right now, we are having a major challenge in terms that automotive supply chain is something that everybody is looking for. All the OEMs streaming their production lines, their major challenge and overall assumptions that the suppliers might not be able to ramp up as the OEMs want and as the requirements are. Can we get some idea in terms of what are the challenge and digitally how you are managing that?
Yeah, so I think with respect to the automotive supply chain, I think it's the ecosystem is fairly large. You talk of multiple suppliers in the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 category, and these are right from raw material to suppliers who actually build entire systems which go into cars. And any one small piece in that chain, when it gets broken, I think an OEM can't make the end product. So we are a very critical piece, so to say, to the entire automotive ecosystem. And I think what's very critical at all these times is to basically, I think from point one is to basically have visibility of that entire chain. And I think what digital actually does, and this, I think from an India perspective, it's not new to speak about digital. We've been speaking about it from a long time. But I think India being a very value-centric market, I think a lot of suppliers down in the value chain find it fairly difficult to grasp what value this brings. I think what COVID has done is kind of change that perspective of most people to see whether how do you really get visibility. And for us, disruption right now is the maximum, from imports that we get from all over the world, trying to see how we manage that, getting visibility, making sure that we know what's going on at our suppliers, and happening from a logistics perspective. So I think in terms of digital, there are a lot of solutions that fit in this. This is bringing in, I think, a change in perspective. The COVID situation is bringing.
Hi, Mr. Amit. We'll take the conversation further. Because if I can ask you, because you have right now 3 locations where you are trying to produce and get back into production. And these are multiple locations, Darweda, Gurgaon, and Haridwar. What are the challenges, especially in the coronavirus, COVID-19 thing that OEMs face?
See, it is primarily the complete chain which is disturbed. Maybe it is a backward chain or a forward chain, suppliers, sub-suppliers. That is what Mr. Amit was also mentioning about. And it is very difficult to track who is open, who will be able to produce, and who will be able to supply us so that we can produce, and who will be able to buy so that we can further sell it to the customers. So that is the major issue in current scenario. And we need to, even if one component is missing, we cannot produce a bike. So that is a major challenge which we are facing right now. Trying to cope up with up, we have come up with few solutions in which we can track each and every supplier who is on, who has got the permission, how many employees are working on those suppliers. Similarly, on dealer side also, we have connect with them. We know we have systems in which we can know that, okay, whether they will be able to open the shops, whether they will be able to sell the vehicles. So that is what we are doing in this scenario.
Okay. Manish, can I ask you in the sense that you are the only OEM right now in terms of major having an ICE uh, engine vehicle as well as the electric vehicle. How are you looking at in terms of synergizing different kind of production? These are different technologies and the challenges you have. And electric vehicles are far more tech savvy in terms of having more embedded systems and more OTA applications. How are you looking at the challenge, and especially in times when there is scarcity of components and critical, especially the imported parts. How are the challenges in current scenario?
Uh, there are two sets of challenges. One is a good challenge that we have, that we continue to have orders on hand. Okay. The bad part about that challenge is we can't, or we are not in a position first to produce. And even if we have started producing now, there is a logistic challenge. Okay. I mean, just like Amit and Vikas explained. How do we ensure the vehicles reach the dealerships? If they reach the dealerships, are they going to be open to receive them? And if they receive them, are the customers willing to come in into the dealerships? Right. So that's one set of a problem from a selling perspective. For all the customers that already have our vehicles, right? Uh, I mean, from a technology perspective, we can manage the vehicle. When I say manage, it is more from a digital perspective. We can manage the vehicle uh, remotely. When I say remotely, is during the COVID phase, we did push out applications specifically on the vehicle with some added features for the customers, make them aware of how to take preventive measures on their vehicles. Okay, both digitally as well as pushing data information onto the vehicle. Okay, uh,
Okay.
so that's one set of things that we had good for the customers who already own the vehicles. From a supply chain perspective, yeah, we remain disrupted. Um, I think it is creeping back to where precisely not where it needs to be, but it's creeping back. I mean, we have set of challenges, just like Vikas was saying. We miss one piece, and we might not be able to build a vehicle. Okay, a good example is just before COVID, we were missing the handles on the vehicle door. Right? Obviously, you cannot build a vehicle without even a small piece like handle. Yeah, you can construct the vehicle, but there are things that don't stitch together when it comes to building a vehicle. So these are very strategic challenges that we have. I mean, and I don't think these challenges are way too different from a supplier being able to provide from out of India to within India, which I mean is a local versus import supplier, right? Taking examples, if a supplier is in China, he's able to ship material. We don't have the capability to just get the parts relieved at the customs now because of the lean manpower there. The logistically, if the custom is able to get the parts released, we don't have the logistics chain in place to have the containers delivered at our plant. So pretty much the same scenario, even if you take a supplier who is in India or out of India. Yeah, situation, if a customer is in India, makes it a bit simpler, you know.
Kaushik, I would like to bring you in the sense that we have an OEM, we have a supplier, we have a two-wheeler company. What challenges do you see, especially in today's COVID-19 situation when everybody is landlocked, companies are just figuring out whether they are allowed to operate or not. They're very skeleton staff. How digital solutions can help OEM suppliers to tide over the crisis?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Anchal. So I come from a consulting background, so I guess what I'm going to say is going to be slightly, a 30,000 feet perspective of, what Vikas, Amit, and Manish have been talking about. And I must say, Manish, you are in a very, very enviable position right now. But having said that, there are two angles to it. One is let's look at the supply side of things, right? In fact, coming from a consulting background, we also had the opportunity to interact with ACMA, the Automotive Component Manufacturers Association, and their member stakeholders over the past couple of weeks. So the challenges are very, very clear. In fact, a very close personal friend of mine has a component manufacturing unit, and I was talking to her and to understand the challenges that she's facing. So on the one hand, there is always a pressure from the OEM, because once the OEM starts operating their manufacturing plant, there is an automatic pressure on the supplier to keep up. Whether they have their plant operational or not is immaterial. They need to keep up with the OEM customer. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, they are working with tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 component manufacturers who are not up and running yet. So they are placing a pressure from the supply side to them. So I think bridging that gap, I think that is one of the points Manish also mentioned from the logistics perspective. Bridging that gap is very, very challenging today. It could be it. Let's say a few months ago, this bridging of gap was taken for granted. Nobody even thought about it. But today, it's coming to the fore. So I think it will take a while before we will be able to connect the dots to make the supply side of things a little more streamlined. Already, again, Manish mentioned this. OEMs are already talking about diversification and de-risking strategies. To have multiple suppliers for a single component, just in case there's a challenge like this. So that's on the one hand. The second part of the equation is the demand side of things. Now here on the digitization front, today we are already seeing a lot of customers and the dealership community looking to derive business from the online retail or the digital side of things. Not only are we looking at the customer journey towards purchase being taken online. I think the classic example today, obviously we have MG Motors. We also have Hyundai's click to buy campaign, or Tata Motors as well. So the OEMs are very clearly waking up the fact that the entire purchase journey can be shifted online. Of course, in India, we've always had customers who do a bit of comparison, benchmarking online, but the actual purchase still happened physically at the dealership. And that today is also being slowly transferred online, right? So the customer journey to purchase is going online. And further down, with the parts aggregation business coming in, the likes of Bootmo or Spares Hub, even the service spares and aftermarket is going online. Today, in fact, I have a Bootmo app on my mobile phone, and I have placed order for many parts for my car, and they've gotten delivered to my doorstep. So customers also are waking up to the fact that you don't have to physically go to a garage. You can actually buy parts online and get it fitted. So with the aggregation part coming in, the garages are becoming customers. Multi-brand garages are becoming primary customers, right? Not the OE authorized centers. Of course, they always have the OEM support, but multi-brand garages, independent garages, they will start playing a bigger role in the digitization space. So to summarize, I think there's a wide variety of implications when we talk about the impact of digitization, obviously on the manufacturing, OEM, supplier side of things, but also on the customer, dealership, and most importantly, aftermarket and after sales and service as well. So digitization will have a blanket impact on the entire ecosystem.
Thank you, Kaushik, so much. I also would like to welcome Mr. Soinder Gill, who is the Director General for Society of Electric Vehicle Manufacturers. Thank you so much for joining in, sir. I'll surely know you in. Thanks. Rakesh, can I get an idea in terms that how service providers are looking at opportunity coming from COVID-19? every company is looking at digitalization. Is there going to be a sea change in terms of the business will happen, especially in automotive, either backchain solutions or the consumer interface?
Yeah, so there are going to be there, so as Kaushik was mentioning, 1st of May, we had a discussion with ACMA, and they had hosted an event along with Siemens, So the problem also with all these component manufacturer as well as the OEM, which has been covered by Mr. Vikash, Mr. Manish, and Mr. Amit. The problem is that one, everything will be open in phases, right? So today, one of the OEMs have opened with 25% workforce. Another bus company has opened with 60 members. Another company in West has opened with 15%. Whereas, nobody knows what is the demand. There is uncertain demand. So as a service provider, what we are looking at across is to put that digital backbone, which can help the OEMs and the tier ones and the tier twos, all the supply chain into one integrated platform. But will that happen now? People have started thinking that, with my interaction over last 1 month with a lot of the OEMs and with a lot of the tier ones, everyone is now thinking that digitalization is one thing which can help us make agile and which can also help us being scalable. Tomorrow if the market opens up, it will help us to scale up to meet that particular uncertain demand or high volume. So as a service provider, if you ask, there are a lot of queries, questions going on. Business as such, we don't expect that to happen for the next a quarter or two. And I was reading one of the survey reports from Kaushik's company. There is a highly optimistic view that maybe the EVs might start up from October November timeframe, and Europe is looking very much towards Asia to fulfill their demand because their supply chain has become into toss. But as far as service provider, we are ready with the digital backbone. And another aspect which will come, from a service provider. Tomorrow, if you see, or if you see in the recent past, as a service provider and to the OEMs or to the tier ones, we used to provide a DMZ zone, that is demonetized zone, right? So that if your data goes out of that, when the world becomes digital, the security plays a more important aspect. So once the data goes out of the DM zone, the data is unsecure. But what as a service provider, all the companies, including Siemens, is doing is putting in a concept of digital rights management. So the security follows your data. So your data from an OEM perspective will be shared only to the respective person in the tier one or tier two who is authorized to see that particular data. So that is one thing which is happening. Plus another thing which has opened up is, and I don't want to name the companies because all the panelists, they are our customer, but many were not prepared, and when the design had to be outsourced or simulation had to be outsourced, there were companies who had to bring in light commercial vehicles to put their computers and get to the R&D guys, to do that. So from a service provider, if you ask me, from the OEM perspective or from the tier one, we need to ensure that if there is a crisis like this tomorrow, God forbid it doesn't happen, but are we ready to do that, from the IT or digital infrastructure perspective? So over to you,
Mr. Gill, can I ask you this? Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks, Rakesh. Mr. Gill, just wanted to understand in today's scenario, is this the opportunity for electric vehicle manufacturers, electric vehicle players in terms of generating a new demand when customers are looking at a different kind of vehicles? The purchase parity is going in a very different way. People are looking at conserving cash. Electric vehicles had an advantage, and there is a government support also. There is more digitalization in every vehicle. The possibility is much higher than the traditional conventional ICE vehicle. Is there a opportunity for traditional EV players as well as the new startups? How do you see it?
Yeah, many things are happening post COVID or during these days for the last 6 weeks or so, and they are working in little opposite directions also. Like the first concept is work from home, which means less travel, may lead to less ownership of vehicles, right? So that's one way of looking at it. Second is obviously social distancing, which will force people out of the public transport onto finding a substitute which is affordable and which they can do with for going to their work and all. The third a bit of angle is environment. At least some of the people have started thinking, when I buy my next vehicle, I should take care of the environment also. And then there is a cash crunch type of a situation where people want to see to it whether I should spend in capex. That's generally for anything which is capital good today, including automobiles also. If I sum everything together, my experience in the last 6 weeks has been, we tried an online sale, and this is a historically high inquiries we got, gave us an impression that sum total of all this is surely the public is moving in one direction at least. Certainly for affordable entry level electric two-wheelers, there is a good demand. I also found out that same way, certainly there is a good demand for pre-owned two-wheelers. And perhaps also it will flow to the old BS4 vehicles that are being sold with some sort of discounting also. So these three things are seeing a fresh lease of life, even during the COVID. Now, how much it is sustained, how much it will carry forth will depend on this fear of what we are all talking about, whether the customer will be coming to the showrooms, or will showroom go to his home, how will the sale happen. There are a lot of digitization, a lot of digital space is being worked out by new players, especially the old one had already had. When it comes to cars, the same phenomena in a little different way is being seen by our members in association. Again, entry level cars are surely there, but not in electric space there in entry level cars. Because for the car, the purchase, normally one would like to go for a complete solution type of a thing. So it's other way around. There, the car purchase are getting accentuated more on the premium side of electric car, not so much on the entry side of the electric car. And other than that are all commercial applications, whether it is three-wheelers or it is buses, it's a government decision. So sum total, I think it is positive for electric vehicles. In the extreme short run, maybe not, but mid to long term, lots of things are going to change for electric vehicles.
Okay. Mr. Jain, can I ask you, in today's scenario when everybody is looking forward in terms of what the suppliers would be doing, companies can manufacture only when the supplies are there. When the Minda is fairly large company, you are supplying to commercial vehicles, two-wheelers, four-wheelers, virtually every segment. How do you see uh, kind of how do you see tiding over this challenge in today's scenario when you have a limited workforce, and how will IT help you in bridging the gap with regard to production and the demand coming from customers?
Yeah, so so I'm going to speak from a Minda group perspective, and we are a fairly large group. We make something like 28 products. We have in India, and we supply to virtually every OEM that's out there in India today, right? So for us, when we sit together as a leadership team, trying to really find out whether all our 64 plants, what do we really do? Whether do they have all the permissions they need? Do we have people where they are? How is their health status? Trying to see whether, in terms of all the social distance, are we there, our supply base, trying to see whether do I have enough material in, what is my line capacity, trying to work all this out. I think it's a fairly complex piece of analysis and a day-to-day action and control that we need to do. And I think we are doing that pretty well. The reason, I think, being that we adopted moving digital quite a few months back, or let's say more than a year back. All our plants, all manufacturing plants physically connected. They are all, we have got dashboards that we can look at any plant at any point in time and tell how many people have come into the plant. We know whether what kind of stock and inventory lies, how much parts get produced on every line. So most of our lines, in at least in the newer, are all in the 4.0 compliant a lot. Now, I can't say that for our entire ecosystem of suppliers, but at least from our perspective, I think with IT, and even if I look at IT initiatives within our company, I think in the last 6 weeks, we've seen, absolutely marvelous work done by our IT team. We've got nearly every single information that we need to either a dash. There's analytics being done on that. We know exactly how much we can produce on every line. So I think that in terms of collaboration, right, analysis, analytics, and planning, I think IT has helped us in all those areas.
Okay, okay. Manish, can I ask you a simple thing that in today's scenario, we will look for more robotized operations, more kind of with manpower, the migration, there are a couple of more issues that automotive industry will have to face in coming time. And MG is also looking at a second plant. So what are the learnings in today's scenario? What COVID will change right from a manufacturing perspective? What are the handicaps and what are the strengths you have digitally?
Um, so I'm not sure where you get this information. We are looking at a second plant, okay? But anyway,
Rajiv was saying.
we are still attaining a full capacity, trying to attain full capacity at the existing plant. Certainly down the road, we might look into it, and obviously that calls for seeing basis the products that we might require to bring in, right? Now, coming to what you were asking, Chanchal. Uh, right now, we have one plant and two locations, which is a corporate and a plant in Vadodara, right? So, doesn't pose much of a challenge for our perspective, unlike Amit might be facing. But again, good part about us is that. We don't have a legacy that we were carrying, right? So we started from a brownfield plant. We did not have any corporate governance saying that, hey, this is the application you take and deploy it, and that's what you will use, love it or leave it, things like that. So we started basically from scratch. And the fundamental motto when we started doing this or implementing applications, deploying infrastructure was maximize on digitization. That was what was driving us. Right from the time a customer goes and searches for a vehicle to the time he goes into a showroom to see it, and even if the product is not there, he can virtually see the product, having a 360-degree view, to getting a test drive by sitting at home, and currently just about to get deployed, we can have a vehicle delivered to a customer if he's willing to pay online, right? We don't. He necessarily doesn't need to go into a showroom. He can pick and choose and get the vehicle delivered at his doorstep. Obviously, there will be some paperwork that he might need to do, and the dealer will take care of that. There are certain components within the pricing which he might not be able to make online payment, which he might have to do at the dealership or to the dealerships. Right? So that is the extent of digitization that we were doing. Again, as Amit was mentioning, uh, to kickstart an operation, which is almost like 6 weeks now, we haven't started, or we just started it, right? But since 6 weeks, we were completely in a shutdown mode. So it's almost like starting afresh, right? The day you stopped manufacturing, at each station, what's the configuration of the vehicle that you have, right? What's the online inventory that you have? What's the availability of parts in your warehouse? Uh, can you draw out a forecast basis that as to how long can you continue to produce if you start today? How long will you be able to sustain till the next shipment actually arrives into your plants? So we actually got a good head start from a digitization perspective because that is what we kept in mind, right? I mean, not necessarily everything is hunky dory. And I'll be honest with you, we have avenues to improve upon from a digitization perspective, and including the situation that we are in currently. But again, I mean, since we did not have too much of a legacy that we were carrying, and we had a strong foundation from a digitization perspective, we did get a head start. Yeah, I'll be honest to that. I mean, other than that, there were some things which obviously firefighting we had to put in place because business demanded it because of the situation that we are in, and we delivered it also.
Okay, okay. Can I ask you, because you have started three plants, but your Nimirana facility, which was also a global pass center, is highly technical. It has a kind of a complete robotized digital operation. what learnings you have in terms, because you are a conventional player, you have traditional operations, you are mass market. What advantages or what learnings can be, especially for Hero Motocorp? Your volumes are so high, your scales are so much, the distribution is so widespread, and you also have now global operations. So, what are the learnings in terms that the volume and the scale for a traditional automaker of India?
So let me start from the way we used to implement the digital projects, whatever digitalization initiatives were being taken. The first was the kind of implementation in small experimental approach that let us put something small and then implement it and then take it forward from there. It was fine if we implement a digital project in a existing process or want to improve on an existing process. So there was a small things which we used to do. So that was one way of implementing a digital project. The other way of implementing a digital project was that a kind of a big bang approach. So if we talk about our GPC, it was a totally a new initiative. It was a big bang digital warehouse, which is a fully automated warehouse, starting from the incoming material till it dispatches. The complete process is automated, uh, and we are able to ship from there about 65,000 boxes per day, which is and that to about 100 plus distributors. So that was what our network is. Now, if I talk about the incremental approach, so what we have learned is that in incremental projects, we have to be very fail fast kind of a thing that we implement. If it is a failure, fail fast, learn it, learn from it, and then take it forward.
Okay.
And we have a special budget, separate budget, which we allocate to this type of project. In Big Bang also, there is a big GPC like project. Now, what has happened after this COVID is that the speed of implementation has increased. So we used to take initiatives, maybe two projects or three projects in a month. Now what we are delivering to businesses about 2 to 3 applications in a week. So that is what the demand has increased, and we are primarily taking that as an initiative, and the team working from home is delivering at a very fast pace. So what learning we have is that if team is given the kind of push and the team is willing to deliver the things, it can be delivered very fast.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gill, just wanted to understand, sir, in today's scenario, in EV space, we have seen a number of startups coming in, and the newer products are coming with so much of internet-based applications over there, upgrades. And I just want to understand, is startup going to able to weather the COVID crisis? Is the startup community, which forms a large base of electric vehicle manufacturers, will they be able to face the uncertainties coming from the COVID crisis?
See, the positive side is obviously, like Manish said, there is no legacy, and so there is no baggage, and there is leanness in the startups. So they're very quick to react,
Yeah.
quick to change, and they're already based on a lot of digitalization, right? The negative is
Yeah.
depending on what deep pockets do they have and are they invested heavily or not. I've seen so many of our member startups folding in the last 6 weeks, merely because they had no dearth of ideas, but a lot of shortage of cash and no transparency of cash coming in the next 1 year or so. So the main problem today in the startup is that they don't have a transparency of how to carry forward this business for the next 6 to 9 to 12 months, and that's why they feel it is better to fold down rather than to suffer the pain.
Okay. Kaushik, can you just suggest in today's scenario, there's so much things happening in automotive industry. Do you see something getting forced on the industry, even if they are not willing? Digitalization is bound to happen. Something that the situation, the circumstances, and the market forces will force OEM suppliers, virtually every manufacturer, every supplier, a dealer, all the stakeholders in the value chain to fast adopt all the digital solution. Do you foresee anything like that happening?
Absolutely. I think one of the very important ones that I wouldn't use the word force, but definitely that is going to compel the OEMs, the suppliers, and the dealership community to act on is shared resources. I'll take a couple of examples. Today, we are already talking about manufacturing facilities which are developing, manufacturing, and producing aggregates for multiple OEMs. The best example is Fiat India, right? FIAPL, Fiat India Auto Private Limited. They not only manufacture vehicles and aggregates for themselves, for Fiat Chrysler India, but also for Tata Motors, and also case in point here, MG Motors. The diesel powertrain for MG Hector comes from FIAPL. So going forward, this shared resources utilization will become more and more pronounced for multiple reasons. One is OEMs are already moving towards platform sharing, right? Today we've got a lot of powertrain, suspension, aggregates which are shared across not only OEMs but also vehicle segments. That means you will see the same platform in a hatchback, in a compact sedan, in a compact SUV as well. So different body styles are also sharing the same platform. Now, it will become even more pronounced as we move towards electrification, right? So electric vehicle platforms will become more and more standardized. That means it will compel the OEMs to share resources and share manufacturing facilities. And that means a single manufacturing line will become more agile and flexible to be able to support multiple segments and multiple body styles on a single platform or a single manufacturing line. So sharing of resources definitely is going to become one of the key areas of investment by the OEMs. It's already happening. We have already seen it happen in India, and that is going to become a norm as we go forward. Because I don't think the OEMs today are going to have enough volumes to sustain themselves in the long term to be able to have dedicated manufacturing lines for separate platforms. I think platform sharing, shared manufacturing, and shared resources, this is going to be the order of the day.
Rakesh, is your presentation ready? Can you kind of pitch in with the presentation? Will it be possible immediately?
Yeah, I can.
Gentlemen, just a small presentation coming from Rakesh on this.
Yeah, so very short presentation, which I wanted to show that, how digitalization, and what is our vision on digitalization and how it can help automotive industry. So I'll start with a small story of a company, which started in 2017 in Vietnam. And remember, Vietnam is a communist country. They had faced a major war, a lot of resource crunch. They don't have good quality engineers as we have in India. So they had, but they came with a vision, to become the leading car manufacturer in the entire Southeast Asia. So this is their story. So imagine, this particular company in 21 months, they were able to roll out, just because they had a digital twin of their product as well as their line, and also, how it will be getting, utilized once it comes to the market. So our concept is still based on that, how you can do the ideation, wherein, you create the virtual product of the twin, a twin product of the virtual twin product, wherein the product will behave in the real world also as it will do in the physical world. The second is, how are you going to manufacture it, much before laying down the stone for your plant, how you want to simulate how the entire assembly plant operation will happen and identify the bottleneck. And the third is utilization. Once the vehicle is out and rolling, how it can feed back the data from field back to manufacturing, back to design. So this three concept, we call it as digital product twin, digital production twin, and digital performance twin. And all this has to be linked. So what you do in your virtual product, how you will provide all the specs upfront to your virtual production or the manufacturing, or the production digital twin. You'll verify that yes, whatever you have designed can be manufactured properly or not, or what modification has to be done at the drawing end before even producing a single proto. And then once it is done, that you commission it for the real production, wherein you automate the complete plant and then validate your virtual production and your virtual product. And then comes your delivery, wherein you want to see that whatever you have produced, whichever vehicle you have produced, it is behaving as designed and as manufactured or not. And that data has to seamlessly pass back to your design and to your production environment, so that your both product design optimization is achieved and your process optimization is achieved. Do we do it now? It is all in silos, it is all broken, but with digitalization, nobody has to go and ask for it, and everything seamlessly, the data seamlessly flows, and that all has to be done on a collaboration platform, and that will help, manufacturers to achieve a continuous improvement, and put a continuous improvement process really in your entire line. Now, how does this happens? This happens in 5 phases. One is at the design phase, second is at the planning, third is at the engineering, wherein all your factory PLCs, SCADAs, and all needs to be also connected, and the data also needs to be secured without any manual intervention. Then your production happens, and then your complete IoT services happen, whether it is Internet of Things or industrial Internet of Things, takes or becomes a part of the digitalization process. Now comes, what are the areas, which any OEM or tier 1 can look in automotive companies. So there are 5 stages which I just laid down in the previous slide. So in each of the stage, there is a lot of design, which is mechanical, electrical, and now a lot of mechatronic components, so how you can ensure that that all can be done, digitally. Second is your simulation part. Nowadays, companies like Tata Motors or Mahindras or Marutis of the world, and all across the bigger companies, whether it is Renault, Nissan, MG, or your Mercedes, they do a 1D simulation. So mathematically, they validate which system will go with which system, and which is the best supplier for that particular system. Then only they will go with the 3D modeling and then all the 3D simulation. Then you can also do a design exploration, and a human being can work with 3 or 4 constraints, but how you can work with n number of constraints and get the most optimized design can also be done virtually, rather than spending hours and doing a physical stuff. And then, of course, life cycle solution, whether it is product life cycle management. And now one of our panelists was mentioning, right, there's a lot of embedded system, embedded software, which goes into a vehicle like MG, right? If you see MG Motors logo and the car, it says the internet car, the internet car. So that, what does that mean, So everything is a lot of software which has gone inside that. How can you manage that, which binary has gone into which variant? Similarly, in the production planning, again, one of panelists was saying we have multiple locations for manufacturing. So how you can design at one place and manufacture at multiple places? How you can do your manufacturing bill of material, bill of process, and electronic work instruction? So that is part of your digitalization part of planning. Engineering is wherein all your PLCs and all your SCADAs should be controlled. You can push your programming right from your computer, right from your remote location to the PLCs, which is there on the shop floor. And the fourth one, which is going very, or which is getting adapted in Indian context, is your manufacturing operation management, or is called as manufacturing execution system, wherein you can do upfront the planning and scheduling for these uncertain times, or when the demand, how the demand forecast will be met, then you can execute it. Plus, like Mr. Amit Jan was saying, all those dashboards on the shop floor can be presented on the CEO or the plant head's mobile phone or tablet, and upfront it can help them to take a decision. And then the quality management system, right? How even today what happens is the supplier, they provide those data of PPAP, APQP, and all those stuff. But how that can come before even the part comes to the OEM, so that will be something which will happen. And how all those data which comes should not be captured manually, but should be fed directly by the machine to the system or the portal which the OEM has. So the entire quality management system will see a drastic change. And the last part, of course, is the complete IoT stuff, which everyone is talking about. How I can sweat my assets as much as possible to get the maximum benefit. How I can reduce my energy management consumption. How I can do predictive and preventive maintenance, so that there is no brokerage, or I know when to replace my parts or tools. And all this digitalization has to be done. A big role now has to be played by the CIO to ensure that for all these digital capabilities there is a solid infrastructure, solid backbone. So this is what an automotive industry requires, to cater to compete at the global end, plus to manage or to become agile. Now, how it all works, many places wherein we have presented, people don't understand the bigger picture. So I have not mentioned any tools, but how it should look across. The customer can give you a requirement, you make all your formulation or design, and then what comes into picture is then enterprise tool like product lifecycle management, wherein you can manage your 3D models, your CAD, all your simulation data, whether it is 1D, 3D, or computational fluid dynamics data, what you going to manufacture, plus your engineering bill of material, your manufacturing, your BOP. Then comes your quality engineer, and everything has to be online. All the quality gates definition as per the regulation of that particular country. Where are you going to sell your vehicle? Tomorrow, India, Hyundai and all exports a lot of vehicles from India. So how are you going to address? Where are you going to, going to meet the law of the country? So all those regulations can be maintained. All your connected design failure mode. If I change anything, if the electric motor fails because of loose cabling, how can I change, or how will it impact my process FMEA, and that in turn will impact my process control plan. All has to be propagated digitally, so that everyone is aware of what is happening in the entire ecosystem. All your inspection plans, and then comes your entire plant operation portion, wherein you're planning, which is your long term, what are you going to do 6 months, 1 year down the lane in one particular factory. Scheduling is what your shop operator and supervisor is going to do each minute, on your shop floor. And many of the OEM companies are implementing that in India. Hero is also one of the pioneers, who have started that. Product compliance is there, product quality and manufacturing execution system and IoT comes into picture there. And then, of course, everything, all the transaction has to be put into your ERP, which is again, it can be SAP, Oracle, or anything, which comes into picture. And then comes here also a supplier collaboration here. All your inspection orders, whether for raw material inspection or in-house good, all the training which has to happen, all this has to be connected, linked together, so that you can ensure that your process quality and testing, everything is readily done. And when your final inspection happens, your customer also comes to know if there is any issue, he can pinpoint there, or he also knows, throughout the life cycle, if you want to share what state the particular product which he has ordered, is there. So this is how the entire digital ecosystem will look like, for an automotive company, because all these terms which we have used is predominantly for automotive, and some also for the aerospace industry. But this is how it has to be done. Plus, what we do today, if you see many of the reports, we don't do problem solving. We are always busy in fixing the problem. And it's not only in automotive, other discrete manufacturing companies also. But whatever you do, whatever root cause you do, is Shaka diagram you do, how you can link that, and how that tacit knowledge of the engineers or the workers is also captured, so that you don't try to fix it. You can just look in the knowledge repository and solve that or resolve that particular issue. Needs to be done, rather than putting in Excel or Word or on a hard copy. So that all digitalization will help you to close the loop and bring the continuous improvement, across the enterprise, and that will bring a complete efficiency. Now, another short video. This is like 2.5 minutes, but the first one which I showed you was from VinFast company, which is into volume business. Lot of constraint, but still was successful. This is a company which is working on personalization, and they have used all the latest technology, the buzzwords which we hear about.
Imagine that you could design and build the car of your dreams as easy as playing a video game. The Hackrod digital manufacturing platform is connecting virtual reality with artificial intelligence and advanced manufacturing to make this dream a reality. To prove this out, we started by sketching La Bandita, the car that we wanted, but nobody made. Quickly moving from sketch to full-scale photoreal 3D model in virtual reality. Allowing us to perfect the design and aerodynamics digitally. Moving back into the physical world and connecting with the Internet of Things. We deployed sensors and scanners to capture 50 years of automotive knowledge. We harvested massive data sets and used them to teach the artificial intelligence generative design engine what a car experiences. With artificial intelligence and machine learning, we have the power of hundreds of engineers at our fingertips, allowing us to grow optimized engineering solutions for our design requirements. These designs are too complex and expensive for traditional manufacturing. They have to be 3D printed. Hackrod is leading the way in large-scale metal 3D printing.
This is the challenge section. It's that node right there that's really going to make or break this chassis. What we're doing right here, like this is the key. Right. If we can get that node, then we can get everything.
We are now ready to print a full-scale car in aluminum. La Bandita is not a concept car. It's a proof of concept of an entirely new way to design and manufacture. And if you can build a car this way, you can build anything.
So I just wanted to show you that, the world is changing. Companies are going to use all this technology and become disruptive. So are we geared to do that, So the second last slide, on why digitalization. So this is a generic slide, which talks about, it can help you in productivity so that you can better utilize your assets, do a complete inventory management, your WIP inventory management also gives you a flexibility which is very much required, as Kaushik was mentioning, right? On the same platform, you might have to make different variants, different products to cater to the different needs of the customer. Third is on your quality, because if you are not going to produce a quality vehicle, I don't think you are going to survive in the market. And fourth is speed, with how much speed you can interact, and how you can bring the product faster to the market. And of course, with digitalization, apart from this major four benefits, you have a safety, you have the working condition of the workers get improves. Plus, a lot of training can happen, online, and with the AR and VR concept, you can have a lot of environmental production. You can provide it across, and plus, it can help you rather than fixing the problem, solving the problem, making you or giving you time for more innovation or bringing more innovative products to your customer. And the last part which I wanted to present, every one of us, have heard of Steve Jobs, a lot of saying, stay hungry, stay foolish, and all. There is one interview which is called as the last interview, which was taken in 1990. And what he talks about is that, what are we human beings, So we human beings are tool builders, and we can fashion tools that can amplify the inherent abilities to spectacular magnitudes. And that is what I feel, that digitalization is that tool which can help automotive companies to do both, survive the present environment, and also help us win the future with autonomous, connected, electrified, and shared mobility. So that's all which I wanted to present. Thank you, Chanchal, and over to you.
Thanks so much, Rakesh, for the presentation. I would like to all panelists for some questions. Thanks so much. There's a Shweta Berry. She's asking how much in digital technologies will for IoT and AI intelligence. Mr. Jain, I would like to kind of hear from you in terms that will the industry be ready and especially production houses? Can you just share, sir, the investment that's likely to come and the overall 4.0 coming to IT solutions?
If I
Mr.
got your
Jain?
question right, are you? Yeah, I mean, I didn't quite get your question properly. You spoke about Industry 4.0. You also spoke about AI. If you can just repeat what exactly is the question, sorry.
So one of the audience, Shweta, is asking how much investment in digital technologies, especially IoT and AI and Industry 4.0, will come from OEM. So I would like to pose this question to you that what kind of investment do you see coming into digital technology?
Okay. I do hear a lot of lag from your side. I think Chanchal, I'm not sure if it's my,
It is
my
there.
audio or is, yeah, it was there. Okay. But anyway, I think I'll try and answer this if I understood it right. I think at least from an automotive space, I do believe the Industry 4.0, change had already started. Maybe I think a couple of years back or more in India. So I think it's ongoing. We are a very value conscious, industry, so to say, right? From people who buy the cars, right? From suppliers and OEMs who actually build these parts. We're very value conscious, and we really want to know what end result in terms of either cost saving or saving of time, space is each one of this digital technology is going to really bring in. And I think trying to quantify these is the most difficult part. Now, what COVID has actually done is it's given us a very different perspective that at any point in time today, if you look at most of the industry, what does the industry, automotive industry, want to know? What's my inventory right now? Where is my inventory? How many parts do I have? How many parts, like can I build? Now imagine if everything that we had was asset tagged, we would have had much easier answers to most of these questions. And in case of a smart factory or an industry 4.0, I think those answers are much easier. So to say specifically as to how much investment do I think is going to happen immediately is difficult. But I believe that since why I'm
Okay.
saying it's difficult, it's also because right now the industry is feeling a lot of pressure, right? Now for most business houses to go and say now, okay, let me invest in something like Industry 4.0, even though I'm not able to make enough money, would be, I think, not the right approach. Neither would I do that. But will it change in the future? I think the adoption would increase quite a bit. And when Industry 4.0 comes, I think adoption of things like AI and analytics will automatically happen. So there'll be a lot more spent. I can't put a number to it, but there's going to be a lot more spend. Will it be double? Maybe yes, it will be double of what was there in the past.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Gill, next question I will ask you. Lalit is asking, in the post-COVID scenario in this epidemic, in the next 6 months, what kind of forecast do you have with regard to electric vehicle, e-rickshaw, e-auto sales, and what will be the impact on last mile transport, last mile connectivity?
Well, whatever information we have collected now from members is that we are certainly going to lose the first 3 months and most likely be very, very tepid in the next 3 months, which means the first 6 months of this year would give only 15 to 20% of the annual volume. Having said that, the last 6 months are, everybody is saying we are going to recover what we have lost. So the sum total of the year is certainly going to be same as last year, at least for most of the segments. So on an annual basis, we will not lose perhaps, which means the run rate will become double in the last 6 months. Now, this is not true for all the segments, but especially for the personal two-wheelers, entry-level cars, and premium cars. These three segments. On the e-rick front, This is perhaps going to be slightly slower because of lack of financing resources and also people going away from the shared mobility. So like even for taxis, whether it is electric taxis or e-rickshaws, there is going to be little reduction in the demand.
Okay, thank you. Vikas, I just wanted to ask, Mr. Pandey is asking that if they look at the aftermarket sales, especially for component spares and all, how would a big OEM handle that demand in the light that you have a massive population of vehicles, there's a large number of customer base. How will we handle and manage, and especially IT will help in terms of meeting this demand for aftermarket spare parts components?
See, that is it is all connected now, and as I think one of the panelists mentioned that there are portals from where you can order directly. So we have also one application which a customer can order directly, and a vehicle can reach his home, and he can get it fitted from nearby places. So all those the digitization is going to help a lot in these areas. And also another area which we are exploring is that a self-service kind of a thing that a person should be able to change the part or replace the part himself with a little bit of training, and assistance can be given over the phone, a mobile phone, so he can change the parts if it is a small part which is replaceable easily. So those things will certainly help uh, to fulfill this demand.
Manish, just this is a question more specific towards electric vehicles. How is the battery supply chain disrupted in case of EVs? How does the lead time transportation cost is be impacted due to COVID-19? Because you have ZS, I just want to understand, especially the battery and supply chain. How are you managing that?
So I think one thing is for sure, from a country perspective, in India we do not manufacture, or there is nobody who manufactures a battery for EV. And when I say nobody, it means to passenger cars, right, or bigger transportation vehicles. Smaller things probably doable. From our perspective specifically, is a challenge because we import the batteries, okay, and logistically, the other end is ready to ship. Are we able to receive it all the way up to at our plant, which I said earlier also is still a challenge, right? I mean, so the pipeline is there. We have batteries at our plant. I mean, if it is a customer vehicle stranded somewhere, servicing is not an issue, but it is more to do so from a manufacturing perspective. So, as I said, the other side of the fence is good now to ship. At our side of the fence, are we still streamlined to receive it? Is a bigger question, Chanchal. So that's the disruption that we anticipate. So clearly, two different streams. One is manufacturing, the other one is after sales. So from an after sales perspective, no issues at all, right? But from a manufacturing perspective, once we run out of the stock that we currently have, right, would the stock in pipeline reach to us in a timely manner is the question that needs to be answered.
Okay. Kaushik, just want to ask you, there's a audience. Diptesh Pava is asking, do you see augmented reality and virtual reality as the new mode of customer interaction and maybe a turning point into how vehicles of future can be sold in the current scenario, in the crisis that we are seeing, and how do you see the future?
Yeah, the large answer to that question is yes. I think a couple of OEMs in India have already taken that step, in leveraging AR and VR to bring the dealership experience to the customer doorstep. I think Mahindra had already showcased their virtual dealership at the 2018 Auto Expo, almost 2 years ago. And in the meantime, a couple of other OEMs have also joined the bandwagon to take the customer experience to the doorstep. Now, having said that, there is another aspect of taking the dealership experience to the customer doorstep, which is aggregation. I think the best example in India today, in South India at least, is this company called nayagadi.com, www.nayagadi.com. So you can check it out online. So what they are doing is it's a very new concept. It's a multi-brand, multi-segment, multi-dealer concept that is taking the dealership experience to the customer doorstep, especially in tier 2, tier 3, and rural India, right? So what they are doing is they are taking away the need to have a dedicated single brand dealerships, physical dealerships in cities, and even in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So they are aggregating the business. So going forward, this is going to be a new model, right? It not only is it multi-brand, but also multi-segment. That means from a single dealership, you can buy a two-wheeler, a passenger car, a commercial, light commercial vehicle, and an electric vehicle as well. So I spoke to the CEO of Nayagadi.com, and his vision is by 2025, they want to be able to sell 50% of their vehicles as EVs. So they're clearly looking at EVs as electric two-wheelers, electric three-wheelers, small electric commercial vehicle, light commercial vehicles as well. So I think that is going to be the new business model going forward. Again, going back to the point of sharing, like I mentioned before. So multi-brand, multi-segment, leveraging the digital platform is going to be the business model where there is likely to be a lot of sharing of resources and savings, not only at the OEM level, but also at the dealer principal level. So dealer principals will come together to share resources, warehouses as well, to take the customer experience to the doorstep. So this is going to be the way forward.
Thanks, Kaushik. Thanks. Manish, wanted to ask you, there's one question very interesting, that the skilled manpower shortages are already being felt, especially in COVID-19 situation, which has aggravated that. Will it lead to kind of more serious steps towards adoption of automation, and industries 4.0 will go for investing into more pilot projects and deploying technologies horizontally across the plants?
So what we have to understand is how much is a company or an OEM or a supplier willing to invest in a platform like Industry 4.0 versus skilled manpower, right? Obviously,
Okay.
I would consider them to be two different aspects altogether. While you can get things done manually by a skilled labor, not necessarily that skill might be available from a 4.0 perspective, right? Not all skills will be replaced by robotic functions, okay, and cannot be also. So, I mean, if you take a OEM like us or any other OEM in India, right? If somebody comes and says, I'm going to attain 90% of automation, probably not practical. Practical scenario is anywhere between 70 to 75% can be attained. Okay. And again, realistically speaking, Industry 4.0 does not need to be the foundation for that. Industry 4.0 is more to do with making sure that you have advanced information from the automation that you have put in place. Okay. A simple example is predictive maintenance, right? I mean, if you have your SCADAs, PLCs, motors, pumps all linked up, you precisely know when it's going to fail, right? But when it says it's going to fail, that skill of replacement cannot be by Industry 4.0. Okay, that will require a skilled manpower at any given point in time.
Oh. Okay. Mr. Gill, because you said that startups and electric vehicle manufacturers companies are much more lightweight, much more lean. There's a question that for the AR, the VR technology coming in, online vehicle sales for branded companies would be a different scenario. What about startups? Will they be more looking at selling online, where but customers, especially in automotive, want the touch and feel of vehicles? How do you see that happening in terms of managing digital sales in the light when customers want exactly to feel the vehicles, and mobility also is a very safety issue. Safety is a major concern for any of the riders, and
So it's going to be a mix, and for startup, it's more of a part of a business plan, and some of them are already doing experience centers also. And at a later date, there is going to be leanness perhaps in the showrooms. For example, there is a concept of a studio showroom rather than a bigger showroom, which displays a representative sample, right? And it's a fully virtually or AR connected. So the guy goes there, looks at the vehicle that he's going for, and has the experience, necessary experience, leading to even a test ride. But the vehicles are delivered from somewhere else, and they're serviced from somewhere else. So it's always going to be an automotive, not 100% AR VR, not 100% brick and mortar, but more leaning towards AR VR in the future.
Okay, Mr. Jan, there is a question for you.
We have a question here from an attendee, Mr. Abhishek Paul. He would like to ask about autonomous driving. How much has been done and what
Are
more
you
is expected?
able to?
And he's also asking whether we need to develop new autonomous driving technology and have it grow in India, and what future investment in that sector can we expect? If I could ask this, direct this question towards perhaps Mr. Patel, sir, if you'd like to answer this.
Okay. On a lighter side, I think autonomous driving is in India, right? I mean, if I'm if I'm sitting in the back seat of my car and my driver is driving, it's as good as autonomous driving, right? But no, I mean, to be fair to the person who asked the question, it's a faraway technology. Okay, I mean, no matter what people say from a developed world perspective, that they are there, they're almost there, but something or the other does certainly go wrong somewhere. Okay, so it's not 100% proof yet. Now, OEMs are embarking on semi-autonomous as well. Okay, so there are clearly two distinct parts. Some functionalities within a vehicle can be made as autonomous. Okay, some cannot be because of obvious challenges from a country perspective or an infrastructure perspective. So that cannot happen. Okay. India, I think there are a set of OEMs who are already testing it out. Okay, trying to prove it will work. If you honestly ask me, I'm not the right guy. This is more of a product development or a product planning kind of a question. But if I wear that hat on top of the CIO hat that I'm wearing, if you really ask me from a country perspective, which is India, I think we are quite a bit far away. I mean, I would give about 10 years, if not more, that we would be even having an autonomous vehicle from a customer perspective.
I can
maybe
also,
just to add to what. Sorry, Amit, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think if I were to just also give a little bit perspective, maybe see, I think in autonomous, as I think Manish was mentioning, it's still going to come in steps. Even in the developed countries, it came in steps, right? And there's no country who's gone mass stream in that technology anyway. I think what's relevant in India is definitely will we go autonomous? At some point we will. When is that? Long way out. Where will it come first? I think it's going to come first in in mass transport. And this is where we think that, okay, where you can dedicate highway lanes to autonomous, maybe you have buses which could run on dedicated lanes. These are the places where it would catch up the first. It coming in private cars is possibly going to be way off. If it can come in specific corridors, that's where it's going to come. But before, I think autonomous, even in specific corridors or for mass transport systems, there is still a lot of work that is going to still happen. We are going to go to semi-autonomous. Even before semi-autonomous, we're going to go into say advanced driver assist systems where you're going to get warnings. We're going to get those use cases, and those are more relevant in India. Today in India, yeah, you do not want the car to maneuver itself, but maybe if I can get enough information that I can drive safely, I'm guided to drive safely. Is it safe to overtake in a particular situation? I think that is what more relevant for India at this point in time. What is going to be needed to go the next step? I think there's a lot of infrastructure related challenges we are talking about. We're talking about challenges with respect to road conditions. I mean, for an autonomous car, you need to know those two lines where I call a lane. Today, what do I call a lane? In India, there's hardly any road I can call, and or I can say that this is my lane. So I think there's, and data connectivity. We are not able to have this webinar without a data connectivity issue. And you're talking about cars. So I think that infrastructure challenge is going to be a really a big leap that needs to be taken. So I think I've just given a little bit perspective, but Kaushik, if you want to add, please.
Yeah, I think totally agree with Manish and Amit here. The beauty of about autonomous vehicles is it's not black and white. It's different shades of gray, right? We've got L0 to L5 with different varied levels of autonomous driving. But like both of them rightly mentioned, ADAS or advanced driver assistance systems will be more important to the Indian driving conditions than fully autonomous vehicles. To add to what Amit mentioned, in fact, some of the areas that will see autonomous vehicles faster or quicker than passenger cars is tractors and construction vehicles or construction equipment. Today, we already have the likes of Mahindra who have experimented with autonomous tractors, and the likes of Volvo who have experimented with autonomous construction equipment. So very clearly, applications which have a proper geofencing, that means which operate within a fixed, let's say, physical boundary conditions, right? Unlike cars or commercial vehicles, they will be the first ones to adopt autonomous technologies. Construction mining equipment or tractors within farms where there is a fixed boundary, you will see more autonomous applications. But for passenger vehicle and commercial vehicle applications, very clearly for India, it will be ADAS, advanced driver assistance systems, like forward collision warning, lane keep assist. Like Amit mentioned, we're still a long way to go before lane keep assist comes in, but definitely forward collision warning, collision avoidance systems, emergency braking, these are technologies that are more relevant to India, and they will catch up more quickly.
Yeah. Uh, I just wanted to ask one important critical question, that the Prime Minister yesterday gave a motto that go local. Do you feel that the go local thing in terms of Make of India and buy local stuff will impact the automotive industry? Because how do you say, because Hero is now it's an Indian company gone global. How do you see that impacting your Make in India initiative? And you have also assembly operations where you supply CKDs from India.
Yeah, I think that is very relevant, and in current scenario, where we have lot of parts which we are importing. So those things, if we have to make local, I think that specifically in post-COVID scenario, whatever we used to import, we will try to bring it back to India, or maybe move out from China. So that is one of the thought process which is going on. So I think that is surely going to help us in this.
One question everybody is asking in terms of which I am, as a journalist, I am not against it. What is the role of China? Will it be the single source of supply? So for so many automotive industries, China is a major center, especially for telematics and sensors and high-tech technology, even for batteries, electric vehicles. Let me start with you, Mr. Gill. How do you see China, especially in the light of Corona, COVID happening, the coronavirus thing that has really shaken the world? Do you see impact happening for the futuristic electric vehicle segment?
See, China offers so many advantages economically on the industrial front. So you will have to literally build a great wall of China on the eastern border to stop them from coming in. So it's a national and a country decision. Like if they want to do it, they will have to go quick in steps to create barriers or otherwise increase duties and simultaneously promote the local manufacturing. It's a good decision, it's a conscious decision, but a lot of work has to go and there has to be an overlap. It can't be stop this and start that. Otherwise, there will be total collapse of many industries in automotive sector. So I believe this beginning is there. We should have done it. We have already missed the bus. And now is the time to start a definite plan that in 6 months to 2 years, we do this what we are saying.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time, and I really appreciate. I will connect with you personally on this. And we are running out of time. We are almost close to the deadline. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, your thought process, and thank you, Rakesh, for your presentation. I wish everybody great times in this coronavirus COVID thing, and everybody be safe. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be safe all.